Each other in French with FrenchSpanishOnline.com. How to translate the expression each other. We use the expression l'un l'autre, so we have a proper expression to translate each other. However, when it is possible, we prefer to use the reflexive verb in French. Let's see first all the form of each other in French. So we've just said that it's l'un l'autre, but l'un l'autre is the singular masculine. We have the plural, les uns les autres. We have the feminine form, l'une l'autre, and the plural, les unes les autres. Let's start with French verbs with no preposition. For example, in English, this sentence or these verbs gets no preposition neither. They love each other. To translate to love in French, you know that it's the verb aimer. But to translate to love each other, we are going to use the reflexive verb s'aimer, S''aimer. So to translate they love each other, we will say ils s'aiment, and that's enough. They understand each other. The same thing. To understand is comprendre, but to understand each other in French is se comprendre. So to translate understand each other, we just say ils se comprennent. They look at each other. So here in English we have a preposition at. In French we have nothing. To look is regarder. To look at each other is se regarder, the reflexive verb. So they look at each other is ils se regardent. Of course, you can add the expression l'un l'autre at the end of your sentence just if you want to insist of each other, if you want to emphasize the point. Ils s'aiment l'un l'autre. It is correct French, but actually we prefer to say ils s'aiment, and that's enough. So why we say here that we are with French verb with no preposition? Because with these verbs we use the expression l'un l'autre. We are going to see some difference afterwards. So the same thing here actually. Ils se comprennent l'un l'autre. Okay, it's correct French. And ils se regardent l'un l'autre. Of course, if you are speaking about a girl, for example, you can say ils se regardent l'une l'autre. Let's see now the French verb with a preposition, and let's see the difference. They write to each other. To write to in English, in French now is écrire à. So we have the preposition à in French. Ils écrivent l'un à l'autre. So because of the preposition, we use it in the middle of the expression l'un l'autre. Ils écrivent l'un à l'autre. Ils écrivent l'un à l'autre. Okay? They are different from each other. So here the verb is to be different from, with the preposition from. In French is être différent de. So if you understand the rule, you know where we are going to put this little de. Ils sont différents l'un de l'autre. Again, between the two words of the expression l'un l'autre, l'un de l'autre. They bumped into each other. The expression here is to bump into. In French, it is ils se sont rentrés l'un dans l'autre. Here we have actually nothing else than a reflexive verb, se rentrer. So we can say ils se sont rentrés l'un dans l'autre. Of course, if you want to use again our reflexive first sentence, we can say ils s'écrivent, because here the reflexive verb is s'écrire. So to translate the write to each other, ils s'écrivent is enough. For the second example, we have actually no reflexive verb. Usually when you have the verb to be followed by an adjective, it's hard to find a reflexive verb. Ils se sont rentrés dedans. It's another possibility to translate they bumped into each other. They are angry with each other. So the verb is to be angry with, and in French you can say être fâché contre or être fâché envers. someone, quelqu'un, être fâché avec. So let's use the expression être fâché avec. So to translate, they are angry with each other. Ils sont fâchés l'un avec l'autre. Correct French. Of course, we have also a reflexive verb, se fâcher, and we can say ils se sont fâchés. More examples now with reflexive verbs, so it's for you. They are talking to each other. To talk or to talk to is parler à in French. But we have a reflexive verb which is se parler. So how can you translate they are talking to each other? Ils se parlent, and that's enough. They write to each other. To write is écrire à. The reflexive verb is s'écrire. So to translate, they write to each other. Ils s'écrivent. They help each other. The verb help, to help in French is aider. The reflexive verb is s'aider. So they help each other is ils s'aident. And that's all. Sentence now with the preposition. So we are not talking about specific verbs with the preposition, but some sentence. For example, this one, we have always been there for each other. So there is no prepositional verb here. It's just a sentence with each other and this preposition for. How are we going to translate that in French? So there is no reflexive verb to translate that. We just say, nous avons toujours été là, l'un pour l'autre. Nous avons toujours été là, l'un pour l'autre. Again, pour, in the middle of the expression l'un l'autre. They respected each other. Actually, we have several ways of translating this sentence. We can use the verb avoir du respect pour, so with the preposition, or respecter. So if you use the first verb, we will say ils avaient du respect l'un pour l'autre. So they had respect, the one for the other. Ils avaient du respect l'un pour l'autre. If you want to use the verb to respect, so in this case we have a reflexive verb which is se respecter, and because of the past we will say ils se respectaient. Be nice to each other. Soyez gentils l'un avec l'autre. In English we say be nice to, but in French is with. So soyez gentils, the one with the other, l'un avec l'autre. Some example now with the plural and the feminine forms. How to translate what Europeans think of each other. The verb here is to think of. Again, we have a preposition. In French is penser de. So we will say, que pensent les Européens les uns des autres? In this case, we use the plural to translate this sentence, and we have no reflexive verb. We'd like rooms next to each other. Again, nous aimerions, or nous voudrions, des chambres l'une à côté de l'autre. We use here l'une because chambre is, in French is feminine, and to translate next we use the expression à côté de. Again, to separate the expression l'un l'autre. So nous aimerions or nous voudrions des chambres l'une à côté de l'autre. As you can see, it's not always easy to understand when to use a reflexive verb, when to use the expression l'un l'autre, but we have a lot of reflexive verbs to translate each other. So let's summarize what we have just seen. We use the reflexive verb to translate a sentence using a verb plus each other. With the expression using the verb to be or to have in French followed by an adjective, you remember to be different from, for example, different is the adjective. We have no reflexive verb. It would be hard to find one. So we use the expression l'un l'autre. And usually, when you have a reflexive verb, you can also add at the end the expression l'un l'autre, but just to insist, just to emphasize the point. That's all. C'est fini. Thank you very much for watching these slides with me. If you want to read the script of this lesson, go to FrenchSpanishOnline.com and you will find, of course, more free lessons. As always, au revoir.